At 6:15 local time, 6 Beaver drones lifted off near Kherson and turned southeast toward Crimea. Their target wasn't a trench line. It wasn't a truck column. It was Kacha airbase north of Sevastopol, an airfield that still hosted a handful of rare BE-12 amphibious patrol aircraft, the kind you don't replace quickly and you don't park out in the open unless you think you're protected. 12 kilometers away, a Russian Tor M2 battery saw them immediately. 6 contacts bloomed on the operator's scope, clean and confident. In the Tor commander's head, this should have been a clinic. 6 drones against 16 ready missiles. Doctrine said 2 missiles per target for a high kill probability. He had enough rounds to erase the whole picture and still have missiles left. But Ukraine wasn't playing the odds, they were playing the system. And in the next 45 minutes, every layer Russia relied on, Tor, Buk, S-400, then Pantsir, would be forced into a choice it didn't want to make. Ukraine didn't send 6 identical drones in a straight line. They sent 6 drones in 3 pairs, and every pair was a different problem. The first pair climbed hard toward about 500 meters, electric motors pulling maximum current. To radar, that climb was a shout. To the human behind the Tor console, it looked like a careless mistake. 2 drones practically begging to be shot down. Those 2 drones were the distraction. 30 seconds later, another pair launched from near Beryslav. They stayed low, around 100 meters, using thermal cameras to read the world in grayscale heat, making navigation possible even when the ground was black. The final pair waited on a timer, engines warm but still. They weren't delayed by accident, they were delayed by design, because an air defense crew can only chase so many problems at once. And Ukraine needed Russia's attention locked on the wrong pair at the wrong moment. On the Tor screen, the formation spread into 3 vectors. The high pair climbed and looked arrogant. The middle pair pushed straight south. The southern pair turned southwest, away from Crimea, like it had lost the plot. That last turn was the first trap. A target moving away feels less urgent. It tempts you to solve the obvious problem first. The Tor commander took the bait. 2 9M338 missiles launched at the high pair. For a few seconds, the intercept looked clean, command guidance climbing toward a neat intercept box. Then the seekers went active. X-band radar flooded the sky, and the warning receivers on the Beavers lit up like a fire alarm. That was the cue. Both drones dumped altitude, hard, down toward the deck. Not a gentle descent, a sudden plunge that stole time from the missiles and shoved the engagement into the worst possible place. Low altitude, heavy clutter. The interceptors tried to follow into the ground mess. At speed, the seeker saw everything. Metal roofs, fences, wet ground, reflections bouncing back in all directions. Doppler filters tried to separate moving drone from moving missile from moving noise. At these angles, at these speeds, the math got ugly. 12 seconds after going active, both missiles self-destructed. On the Tor console, it looked like the drones had performed a magic trick. Targets that were supposed to be dead simply weren't. The Tor crew swung the launcher toward the southern pair, and then the second trap snapped shut. The southern pair disappeared. They hadn't vanished. They'd threaded a radar shadow. To the southwest, a gentle valley created a blind zone starting about 3 kilometers from the Tor position. Ukrainian planners had studied elevation maps until they found a seam. Only about 400 meters wide at ground level. Too high and the Tor sees you. Too low, and trees and structures become your own enemies. But between roughly 30 and 50 meters, for a short slice of space, the Tor was blind. The southern pair took the seam at about 35 meters and slipped through. Now the assistant operator fired again. 2 low-altitude interceptors at the middle pair, trying to salvage the engagement before all 6 drones escaped. And the middle pair did the move that turns a modern SAM into a long-armed boxer forced into a clinch. They flew straight at the launcher. This wasn't bravado, it was geometry. Every air defense system has a minimum engagement range. Too close, and the missile can't arm. Too close, and safety logic won't allow a detonation near the battery. For the Tor, that minimum was about 1 kilometer. So the Beavers didn't run from the missiles, they ran at the battery, trying to get inside its guard. The intercept math broke. One missile overpulled and tumbled, a heavy dart spinning uselessly through the dawn. The second missile managed the turn, then hit the safety wall. Continuing would take it over its own launcher. The system killed it. It self-destructed about 800 meters out, close enough to slap the crew with a blast wave and a realization. 6 small drones had just bullied a Tor battery out of its own engagement logic. But Russia had more layers, and Ukraine still had to cross them all. At 6:32, the surviving Beavers crossed into occupied southern Ukraine, and the air got heavier. A Buk M3 at Novokakhovka had been tracking them while the Tor fight played out. This wasn't a surprised unit. It was a prepared position with a commander who'd been hunting drones for years and didn't care about elegance. The Buk launched without ceremony. The interceptors didn't arc upward like a classic engagement. They flew flat at treetop height. Track via missile. The missile itself became a forward radar relay, painting the drones while flying at Mach speed and feeding their exact position back to the battery every fraction of a second. It's a terrifying concept because it collapses time. You don't have minutes to improvise, you have seconds. The Ukrainian operators had about 18 seconds. One Beaver dove toward a grain elevator, aiming for a narrow gap between the tower and an adjacent structure. It wasn't cover in the old sense, it was geometry, forcing a missile designed for high-altitude intercept to choose between hit the drone and hit the concrete. The missile tried to follow. It wasn't built for obstacle courses. It detonated into terrain below, throwing up a smoke column like a curtain. 5 Beavers emerged, 1 didn't, clipped by debris, cartwheeling into a field, and exploding in a small, disappointing fireball. The Buk commander tried to keep clean tracks as the remaining drones crossed paths, truly crossed. Radar returns merged into one blob and split again. The computer had to decide which target became which, and every recalculation cost time. The lag was small, but stacked together, it created a rhythm of uncertainty at the exact moments the Buk needed certainty most. The commander tried his electro-optical backup. In full daylight, it would have helped. In pre-dawn haze, it couldn't cleanly separate drones from the murk. Thermal could see them, barely, but only inside about 8 kilometers. By the time the drones showed as faint white dots, they were already inside the effective engagement window. The Buk went quiet and radioed the truth in polite language. Technical limitations. 5 UAVs continuing south. And the worst part for the commander was that south wasn't the end. It was the middle of the route. At 6:50, the drones entered the S-400's world. On paper, an S-400 should erase them. In software, it carried a weakness that mattered more than range: the velocity gate filter. Ignore anything moving under 100 kilometers per hour to avoid birds and clutter. 3 Beavers slowed to 95 kilometers per hour. To the S-400's brain, they became noise. Contacts flickered, vanished, flickered again, never stable enough to be real. The operator watched the screen blink like it couldn't decide what it believed. This is the kind of failure that doesn't look dramatic in the moment. It looks like uncertainty. And uncertainty is what Ukraine needed. Because the S-400 didn't have to be destroyed, it only had to hesitate. Meanwhile, point defense systems, Pantsir units, were repositioning from Sevastopol toward Katcha, finally reading the route correctly. If they arrived in time, the drones would be shredded the normal way. Short range, fast reaction, guns and missiles built for exactly this. The Beavers had minutes. They couldn't slow forever. They couldn't hide forever. They needed one more gap. At 6:56, Russia's own aviation created that gap. A routine military personnel flight from Moscow began its descent into Sevastopol, carrying roughly 180 troops, approaching on the same corridor the Beavers needed to use to reach Katcha. Air defense has hard safety zones around transponder broadcasting aircraft. It's there to prevent disasters, friendly fire, misidentification, incidents that can't be explained away. The Beavers tucked in behind the approach path, close enough that any missile shot risked violating the safety logic across the network, not close enough to endanger the transport. For 8 minutes, the drones wore a shield made of procedure. The Air Defense Commander demanded the flight be diverted. Air traffic control refused to reroute a landing without cause. The crew in the cockpit flew their checklist, unaware they'd become the most valuable object in the sky and the most inconvenient object on the air defense net. By the time shouting turned into action, the Beavers had cleared the engagement zone. They broke away and dove toward Kacha at maximum speed, and the final layer arrived, late. At 7:01, a Pantsir S-1 rolled into Katcha. Its crew was still trying to unfold stabilizing jacks while the radar was already searching. The manual calls for minutes of setup, leveling, calibration, warm-up. They had about 90 seconds. Forget the jacks, the commander decided. We shoot from the wheels. Shooting from the wheels meant reduced accuracy. The platform would rock under cannon recoil. Fine tracking would be harder. Missiles might not guide cleanly, but 60% of something was better than 100% of nothing. The radar painted 3 contacts approaching from the northeast at around 180 kilometers per hour, about 400 meters high and descending. The first missile launched and immediately veered off, guidance confused by the unstabilized platform. It self-destructed after about 800 meters of wasted flight. The second missile tracked cleanly and scored a real kill, blasting 2 Beavers out of the sky in a single engagement. Now the cannons took over. Twin 30mm guns threw a storm of tracers across the dawn. The guns were built to create a wall of lead that aircraft can't fly through. The Beavers didn't fly through, they flew around. Changing angle, changing altitude, never giving the fire control reticle a steady solution while the vehicle rocked with recoil. 2 minutes of continuous fire, roughly 800 rounds expended, 0 hits. And then the surviving Beaver rolled into its terminal dive. On thermal feed, a BE-12 sat cold and exposed. The drone came down at about 40 degrees, around 210 kilometers per hour. And the warhead did exactly what it was built to do, focus. A shaped charge jet punched through aluminum skin, through fuel tanks, and into a parked maintenance truck loaded with aviation fuel that no one had moved. The apron flashed into fire. 1.2 seconds later, another Beaver hit a Mi-8 helicopter and, more importantly, the ammunition storage nearby. For the next 30 seconds, 12.7mm rounds cooked off in rapid crackles, spraying fragments and bullets across the ramp like shrapnel in every direction. Those cook-offs reached the Pantsir. Impacts shredded its radar array and effectively blinded it while it was still trying to track the last drone. The final Beaver circled once, camera steady, recording the destruction, then dove into the second BE-12. The aircraft disappeared into flame and smoke. Katcha's rare patrol planes were now wreckage. The helicopter area was chaos. And the point defense that arrived at the last moment couldn't see well enough to stop the final strike. This wasn't 6 drones getting lucky. It was 6 drones forcing 3 layers of defense into 3 different failures: terrain shadows, minimum ranges, hard filters, and safety protocols, until the last system arrived too late and fired too unstable. The base didn't lose those aircraft because it had no defenses. It lost them because defenses are built on assumptions, and the Beavers spent the entire morning attacking the assumptions right then.